Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to this reading. This is going to be for the new moon in Pisces that we're having on the 18th of March, 2026, around 9:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's very late in the day. And it's going to be at 28 degrees of Pisces. Now, there's a lot of energy kind of in the background while this new moon is happening, specifically the fact that Jupiter's now direct, right, in Cancer. Of course, he's not moving very fast. He's still kind of at like a couple or 3 or 4 degrees, 3 or 4 minutes a day. So he's not moving very fast. He will be probably in the beginning of April, mid-April. But other than that, we also have Mercury that's about to station direct 2 days after this new moon. So he's basically completely stopped. And he is now conjunct that north node, which we have talked about already. And the last thing that's kind of in the background energy is the fact that because this new moon is at 28 degrees, we're approaching the end degrees of Pisces before we enter Aries season, right? And we have to keep in mind that kind of energy, because it's in the last decan, is going to bring in the vibe of Scorpio as well. So we have to kind of keep that under consideration as we're looking at this new moon in Pisces. Now, the biggest things that we got going on is the square between Venus and Jupiter. Again, Jupiter is now direct. And I want to also mention this sextile that we've got between the new moon and Uranus. But I also want to talk about the applying conjunction with the new moon and Saturn and Neptune, right? We just also had that Saturn-Neptune conjunction on the 20th. Yeah, the 20th of February. So, yeah, a lot going on, you know? The biggest thing that I want to say is Pisces is kind of like the end, right? Not just on the hero's journey, not just as an archetype, not just the fact that everyone has Pisces somewhere in the chart, even if it is intercepted, right? So you look at where Pisces is in your chart, and you're going to know where, symbolically, where you've reached the end. But I also want to say that with all this heavy Piscean influence that we got going on right now, kind of approaching the end of all that so that we can move into Aries, we're letting go, in a sense, of the archetype of the dreamer and the poet and the mystic. And I think that the mystical side of us, the spiritual side of us, the transcendental side of us is really what's going to be highlighted with this new moon. Especially because Mercury just went into retrograde in Pisces. So we've kind of dug very, very deep into the depths itself, right? This is hippocampus. This is Mercury going into the underworld to meet Hades. Especially in Pisces, he's able to kind of connect his subjective point of view and look at the objective collective point of view. And we kind of dive into a different realm in Pisces. We dive into a different part of us that we haven't accessed. And being that it is a new moon, of course, we have the typical, it's time for a new cycle, it's time to set intentions, it's time to start fresh, it's time to look at what is our next month going to look like, right? Over the next 28-ish days, what are we going to really see? And if we're looking through the eyes of Pisces, what we're really seeing are, again, inaccessible parts, because it's that last decan. So now we also have that scorpionic, mysterious parts that we might not want to look at, right? The parts that we might have to face the objective truth. This is about the objective and the collective that we might be looking at. Because I really feel that heavily with this chart, especially with that square over from Venus in Aries over to Jupiter in Cancer. That's a cardinal square on top of that. So we have this energy of just the tension of what we could consider ourselves to be either, I almost want to say beautiful or ugly, you know? This is kind of a tough call. You have the two benefics squaring off. So we might not feel as faithful We might not feel as optimistic. We might not feel like we can really go big or go home. We might not feel like we can get that bigger picture. Venus square over to Jupiter. And it's funny because I just posted something on Instagram as I'm recording this about Jupiter going direct in Cancer. Kind of lets us come home to ourselves, and we look at just the simple comforts in life, and we get the bigger picture by looking at the micro. We have an easier access to the macro, and that's also coming from the assistance of Pisces. So when you have this square in a cardinal sign, again, you have the Aries energy with Venus, and Venus in Aries. I mean, Venus already, I know that she's technically the planet of love and relationships, right? That's what everyone thinks about with Venus, and she is. But Venus, you know, she's I don't want to say self-serving, but she finds the worth and the value within herself before she looks at other people, right? So when we're talking about relationships with Venus, what we're really looking at is how can that relationship assist me in identifying myself, but not overtaking that identity in myself, because Venus, she's free, okay? Especially in signs like Aries and Virgo. You know, she's not going to want to, and Aquarius, she's not going to want to be tied down to anything. So a square over to Jupiter in Cancer, where Jupiter in Cancer is like, hey, look, again, remember, Jupiter just went direct. Hey, look, we got to really look at, you know, our emotional baggage. We got to look at what we're bringing to the table as far as how we're going to take care of ourselves, how we're going to take care of other people. How are we going to work through that mother archetype of Cancer? And Venus in Aries is very much about, well, how am I going to take care of me first before I take care of everybody else? So when you have a square like this in Pisces, again, Pisces wants to say, hey, look, there's a deeper part to this, right? There's a part to this that might be a beautiful dream or a really nasty illusion. It's learning how to be in the cosmos, but not be so detached that we tend to escape from what we need to face, right? From what we should accept. It's really about acceptance with Pisces. So that square kind of on sort of a cookie cutter, you know, cookbook definition of what we might be dealing with. And you guys know I'm not really a predictive astrologer. I'm an evolutionary astrologer. So of course I'm going to look at more of the stuff that we need to talk about with our soul and what's within us. But on a more mundane level, Venus square over to Jupiter, especially in the cardinal signs of Aries and Cancer, can bring tension about, you know, some big, maybe some big financial issues that we might need to address, or some big purchases that we might need to make, or just some truth bombs as far as our relationship with other people and money and ourselves, okay? So it's kind of like restrictive. It's almost like as if Venus is in opposition to Saturn when Venus is squaring over to Jupiter, because it doesn't feel natural. A square between the two benefics never felt natural to me. Every time I see that kind of aspect, I know that we're going to face some problems. But we have a sextile, again, from the new moon over to Uranus, which I think can kind of allow us easier access to seeing things on their side, right? To getting that kind of 180-degree perspective. And a sextile like that can open up a doorway to come up with original ideas, unique ideas, special ideas that have to do with our individuality, which Uranus loves. So I think there could be some good surprises that might make us shift not only our perspective, but some good opportunities that might change some things. And you know, a Venus square Jupiter also, I will say, can also make us believe more, can push us to a point where we don't hold ourselves back, where we don't restrict ourselves, where we open up, where we expand more, right? This is Jupiter, where we touch the stars, where we don't stop, where we reach for the highest possible outcome and the biggest goal that we have. Especially with Venus, what we really are seeking is that beauty, right? What we're really seeking is ourselves. And you know what's funny is I've been rereading some books, and the Inner Planets book by Liz Green and Howard Sasportis. It's supposed to be kind of like a script of certain seminars that they did. And he talks about, he said this one thing, and now it's kind of stuck in my brain, and for some reason I didn't see it until now, and I love that he opened up my mind. And see, this is a part of my Mercury retrograde in Pisces journey. But if you look at Venus and the glyph of Venus, it's a mirror, right? It's kind of like a hand mirror that you would hold up, and that is Aphrodite. Not in a vain way, although it could turn into vanity and jealousy, right? There is that shadow side of Venus, especially if she's retrograde, or especially if she's dealing with a square or an opposition over to Lilith, which she's not, thankfully. She's making a trine over to Lilith. So we have an easier time with a trine like that to leave behind, the more negative aspects of that, and feel like we are allowed to let go of our wild or unconventional side, especially obviously with attraction or sexuality, or a deep understanding of what our primal instinct is with love, pleasure, beauty, everything that Venus kind of represents. So I will leave it there for the astrology. Let's look past the horoscope and kind of talk a little bit about what the cards have in store for us. Let's see what... Oh, okay, there we go. Well, there it is. Get the big picture, right? The view from above. We already said that with Jupiter being direct, that square over from Venus. And it's even more obvious with... I love that it's this picture right here, because it's hot air balloons. And if we're talking about Venus in Aries squaring over to Jupiter in Cancer, that's the most hot air situation you could experience. And then you've got that Piscean new moon allowing that new beginning, that fresh start, kind of getting us above in the clouds and looking at that bigger picture again, more in an objective way, so that we have that natural empathy from Pisces. And that natural compassion, but we don't get so caught up in it that we lose sense of self. That is really, really important with this new moon. It's like a spiritual reset, right? New moon in Pisces. What do we got going on? Psychic flames, 333, sacred milk, and druid magic. Yeah, again, Pisces, right? We have the natural, intuitive, psychic, transcendental part of us coming out. So I'm not surprised to see that. So by getting the bigger picture, by being able to stand back and detach emotionally, it's very, very important that we do that emotionally, but not become cold and calculated. Again, you can't be cold and calculated, because then we lose that compassion and that empathy that we have with Pisces, and we tend to escape it, and we don't want to deal with things. So the sacred milk, I love that. That's kind of, you know what, I might title the video that. What a great pairing of two words to describe new moon in Pisces energy. The sacred milk, okay? We're drinking it. Milk is it's thick, it's taken from another animal, right? And it's meant to nourish, it's meant to not just only another animal, but let's think about it as like a mother nursing a baby. You know what? I know I said we're done. Hold on. Let's look at what the Sabian symbol is while I talk about that. Okay, so before we talk about the Sabian symbol, think about a baby being nursed by a mother, right? First of all, it's a sacred union. It's a sacred connection with mother and baby. But the milk... the breast milk is nourishing the baby so that the baby can grow, so that the baby can mature, so that the baby can be healthy, right? Which is that Virgo Pisces axis. I know this is a new moon, so there is no Virgo energy there, but it's still that axis of nourishment. It's just Pisces gets the nourishment in a broader sense. Pisces gets the nourishment from the soul. Pisces gets the nourishment from the cosmos, from the universe. So we're getting that kind of nourishment, okay? Light breaking into many colors as it passes through a prism. Wow. That's the Sabian symbol for this new moon. Light breaking into many colors as it passes through a prism. So the prism, I think, is the new moon, right? That's the filter itself. In this scenario, the new moon is the prism, and for us to be able to pass the light of Pisces through it, we see different aspects. We see all the parts kind of breaking apart and getting different perspectives, different aspects, different nourishments. Let's talk about it that way, right? Let's just call it what it is. We're getting different kinds of things, places, people, whatever, especially with the square over from Jupiter and Venus. And we, emotional. There it is. Again, emotional. A lot cups. It's all cups. This very, very deep emotional journey that we might be accessing. So if it's breaking into many different colors, then we're looking at how things are made, right? We're looking at the layers of things, the foundation of things. We're looking at all things at the same time, which is so Pisces. I love that Sabian symbol. Anyway, Seven of Cups, Ace of Cups, Queen of Cups, Princess of Cups on the bottom of the deck. All cups. But there's that Venus in Aries I was talking about. And then Pisces kind of learning not to go towards the self-sacrificial energy too heavily, because then it loses a sense of self. So self-love, self-worth, self-care at the center of the reading. That makes sense. The illusion, the daydream, the bigger picture. You can call it a lot of different things with the Seven of Cups. Not getting lost there, not getting trapped there, looking at all of the options. Look at again. 7 different cups, right? Breaking one big cup down to 7 different cups. So it's really about the breakdown of things to the buildup of things, is what the cards are saying, especially emotionally. Looking at our emotional pain body, but looking at our emotional free body as well. Not just looking at it as a sense of, okay, well, what's painful. We're also looking at, well, what makes us happy, what makes us comforted, what makes us feel good, not only what makes us feel bad, right? Because Queen of Cups is very emotionally mature. She's emotionally experienced. She understands how she feels, and she honors it. She doesn't leave it to the side. She does make decisions based on emotions, but in a very positive way, unless she's in the shadow. And I don't think that we're really following that shadow. Again, if Venus was maybe making a square over to Lilith or something, and then maybe I could say, okay, we could be. And I'm not saying that everything about Pisces is beautiful and dreamy and amazing. Obviously not. There are aspects of Pisces that can be dark. Again, it's also in that last decan, 28 degrees of Pisces, so it can get dark in that scorpionic influence. But I don't intuitively see that or feel that with this new moon. I'm not exactly sure yet what other astrologers think. I haven't watched anybody else or listened to anybody else yet. But that's my interpretation of it, okay? 7 of Cups, we have the 3 of Wands. I mean, that's a beautiful, bright future. You know, we're basically getting the message from the card saying, look, this new moon might open up a doorway, might give you an option, might give you a choice to create a big, beautiful future, to see the vision come true, to see that boat, that ship on the horizon coming in so that you can get on it and go on a new adventure. I mean, I'm glad that the cards are kind of letting me, know that I'm seeing things right. Now, 4 of Pentacles on top of the Ace of Cups. Now, you might think, well, that's kind of a tough combination, and it could be, but it's a tough combination, I think, more so if we don't hang on to our self-love and self-worth, then we'll never see those options, because we won't feel worthy enough, we won't feel loved enough, we won't feel comforted enough, we won't feel good enough, we don't feel valued enough if we don't hang on to that, right? Queen of Cups, we have I love it. The King of Swords. But also that came up with it was the 5 of Wands. So kind of moving things around, right? Not only emotionally, but mentally. Making those clear decisions, getting that clarity, getting the bigger perspective, the Hierophant. There's that spiritual experience that I was talking about. Again, it's at the end of the road, the end of the journey, 28 degrees of Pisces. We're almost there. We're almost at the end. Before we start over in Aries. And I think that by getting that spiritual wisdom, because this is what it is, it's spiritual wisdom, drinking that sacred milk, right, that we get from this card, we understand what it means to have separation between heart and mind, and how to bring those two things together to bring it into coherence so that we can truly move forward and make the best decisions of our lives. Like, this is as big as I can get. I can say it, right? All right. So I hope that this helped. I truly do. If you'd like to book a personal reading with me, my website is linked in the description box. I do offer both tarot and astrology readings. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in. Have a great new moon, and I will see you in the next reading.